Hey, everybody. As I am traveling through my diagnostic journey, um, I'm noticing sometimes it's really easy to get information that's good about conditions, and sometimes it's quite difficult. So I'm going to try to, as I have energy, this is about the only thing I have energy for at this point because it's completely non physical to do and doesn't require me to think clearly to do it necessarily, and certainly not think quickly. I'm going to make some videos around the kinds of questions that I'm needing to ask and research in case it can be helpful to anybody else. Right now, we're going to dive a little bit into conversion disorder, which has been recently renamed functional neurologic disorder. It's something that I was, I will say, um, unrigorously, to put it kindly, diagnosed with, I don't know, a month or two ago, uh, the day before I went to a different doctor and got properly tested at all, first off, and properly tested, quantifiably tested, and was diagnosed properly with 8 conditions that are not that. Functional neurologic disorder or conversion disorder is something that is built kind of on the same types of foundations that cognitive behavioral therapy toolkit is built on. And when I say that, what I mean is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is a collection, it's a mishmash, a toolkit of whitened, colonized, kind of um, put a European face onto a lot of tools that actually are Eastern. Mindfulness, meditation, um, journaling, writing. These are generally very common to Eastern worldviews, with the exception of journaling. None of cognitive behavioral therapy toolkit is common within Western paradigms, except ones that started Eastern, and um, so it's relevant to remember where things come from, to then understand how they are getting kind of pirated and colonized and imperialized in the process of coming into another culture, and the culture that we're in and the moment that we're in is certainly a post-colonial one, but not a post-imperial one. We're still very much in an age of empire. And the reason that that matters is because plantation economics, which is to say this style of viewing one another or viewing ourselves as valuable to the extent that we can produce, interestingly, not for ourselves, but for someone else, who we know is too rich to begin with, and who we know is exploiting our bodies and our time and our talents. Um, so that's what plantation economics is. When you're looking around and you are one of the pieces of the plantation, literally or figuratively, and if you are not the person in charge, then you are wage enslaved in some way or another. Your creativity is not considered and not desired, and it is considered a threat. And your beingness, your human beingness, and whatever body you are in, with all of its uniquenesses, is not allowable. Okay, so with that little bit of background in mind, a functional neurologic disorder is similar to CBT in that it has been taken from a compassion based, very humane, humanistic paradigm, like CBT skills have, very, very egalitarian paradigm, uh, very open to, any kind of religion, structure, etc., and turn into something else because it's being viewed through and executed through and legislated through and legalized and delegalized through, illegalized through the gaze and the kinesis of a white male patriarchal kind of worldview, paradigm, empire, economy, etc. So that is to say that if we were not in a patriarchal world, having something called functional neurologic disorder might be helpful. Having something that acknowledges, because what it does is it links trauma to short circuits in the brain. And that's a real thing. That's a real thing. And it's an important thing. The problem is that because that compassion-based divine feminine paradigm is being read through and executed through and activated through a patriarchal healthcare system, a patriarchal economic system, etc., it doesn't get done that way. What happens is that women get, or people who get coded as female, get diagnosed with it all the damn time. It only recently changed names only because of the stigma of the term conversion disorder. Never mind that conversion disorder in the LGBTQ community means something completely different. So that's a whole nother ball of wax. So it's not talking about sexual orientation, to be clear, or gender identity. But what it is doing is convoluting in real time. It's convoluting the actual scientifically, valid connections between trauma and the way that our brain short circuits and some of the relationships that can have in the body, with, oh, well, this is just women being hysterical. And the reality is that it gets diagnosed for women a zillion times more than it does for men. And I can tell that I never want to go to the Cleveland Clinic because the way that they have written their white paper about FNP is that they word it as women have it more than men do. Well, that's complete bullshit. Women don't have it more than men do. Women get diagnosed with it more than men do. There's no evidence to suggest that women have it more or less than men. Men go through trauma just like women do, and just like everyone does. So that is a little bit about functional neurologic disorder. The doctor who diagnosed me did not look at my background, did not test me, did not send me for any lab work, not even a urinalysis, nothing. She was also the person who violated and paralyzed my hand, which has been in terrible shape ever since, despite her knowing from the word go that I was in pain and had been injured, and was just getting use back in my hand in a way that I could use it again. And instead she chose to continue asking me to move it and do various things. And because I had disclosed the pain and the injury to her, I assumed that she was just going to, just kind of ask me, like, just to kind of get a sense of how much I could move it, right? And then let it go. And she didn't. She kept going for 20 minutes. I was convulsing. I was screaming. She, did that psychological blackmail thing of, well, we could stop, but then I can't complete the evaluation. And, because I thought she was actually going to do an evaluation, but she did not. She then diagnosed me with FNP and then continued the psychological blackmail with, I know exactly what's wrong with you and I don't need any more information. And your pain is very real. And she kept saying that over and over. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. She said, your pain is very real. So when I tell you you have this, it's not that I don't believe you're in pain. your pain is real, but you need to go to a psychiatrist, get medicated, go to pain management, get medicated some more, and go to physical therapy and relearn how to use your body. And because, she said, your brain is short circuiting because of trauma that you experienced at work. And again, this is the danger, right? The danger is that we take something that's real and true. I had trauma at work. It did have lots of flare up things that it seems to have triggered in my body. But that's not FNP unless you've done all the testing in the world, right? The very next day, less than 24 hours later, I was at a different doctor who did know what the hell she was doing and did lots of testing, took a lot of blood. Can't remember if we did a urinalysis, but did EEG, did sensory measurement, did various blood pressure and movement testings. And, I have 8 valid diagnoses from that are being approved by insurance as we speak, that have already been approved like immediately. So that's how good the testing was. So I hope that helps give a little bit of context. And for those of you who have been diagnosed with that, there's nothing to say that it is wrong. If you feel like that label fits you and it helps you, these labels, diagnoses don't change how our body works, right? Like there's nothing magical about a diagnosis, but what there is help in is getting the right label to communicate to the next expert so that you can get the help that you need in a safe way, right? So this is not, down on FNP if that is really what you've got and that label is helping you get what you need. Totally respect that. And in fact, in a different world that was not patriarchal, that was not for-profit pharma, that was an egalitarian space, I would say, hell yeah, FNP is a real thing. And guess what? We all have it. We all have it. But when we're trying to use a diagnosis to differentiate between me and the rest of the population, then it's not meaningful to say that I have that. And when we continue to just recycle and get new terms to recycle the branding of women as hysterical, women as we are hysterical because hysteria is like the womb or something. So we actually are hysterical, but to line up that word with insanity or with less value to the human being is just no good. Like that's just not going to work. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. And if you have been labeled as that, please know that you are not alone. And I am very lucky to have been in a community where I was able to ask that question. I could smell that it was wrong. I could smell with how many times she was trying to convince me to be okay with it while she had killed my hand. I could tell that something was wrong, but I didn't know what, because what she was saying was kind of true, right? And when people say little things that are true, then their gaslighting gets excused quickly. Because the best untruth is one that contains some truth in it. So at some point, somebody might need this. So just wanted to share that. That's all I'll say about that for right now. If you need a community to be a part of, I would encourage you. There are a lot of Facebook communities where people can go and have these conversations. So if you have any kind of diagnosis, type it into Facebook and there's probably a community for that. But there are a lot of us who have been through that, and I am extremely thankful that, I came home from that visit totally worn out and just busted, and I just wrote a little note into the Facebook group. I said, does anybody know what this is? And boy, did they know. And boy, did they go off. There was only one person out of 30 responded. No one ever really responds to anything I post. But they did that day. And there was only one that said, yeah, like that's my diagnosis and that feels real and, I dig it. And so anyway, there's space for everybody. So hope that helps.